This conversation today is about your story, Melissa Schlemmer, our role model of today. You're a wife, you're a mom, you were a full-time caregiver to a disabled child, and you're now navigating child loss. Melissa, you had Christopher, who had a rare brain disorder that affected many systems in his body. You started being a blogger and advocate for children with special needs, and you documented and shared your struggles and your triumphs with him under your handle, Our Real Life, on Instagram. And you keep doing that. Christopher passed away very sadly this year at the age of 11. And you are now documenting your journey with grief. You have 3 more sons who are with you and a husband. And I'm just so thankful for you to show up every day, navigating this journey, giving permission to others to do the same, to make other people feel seen and heard. And for being so unbelievably vulnerable and authentic and showing up in all of the beautiful and messy ways that one does when one navigates crushing grief. So I'm so thankful to you, Melissa, and I would love to start off with asking you a question about how you want people to interact with you. What kind of language would you like people to use?
When it comes to talking about my son Christopher,
Yeah.
I I want everybody to talk about him. I
Mm.
want everybody to bring up stories. I love when I get a text message from somebody saying, "Oh, I was at the library and I saw this book and it reminded me of Christopher." I want those reminders that he's not forgotten.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. So would you like to talk to us about Christopher, Melissa?
He He was the best. Although he was non-speaking, I always tell everybody he was the most opinionated and manipulative child. He could get whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, and he knew just what he wanted. He always knew exactly what he wants. He loved to be read to. We could read books all day, all night, and he would be happy. I think back on his life and I just think he was fully loved his entire life, and he knew that.
Beautiful. Melissa, so what do you feel? And we've been talking about this a little bit before we hit the record button. You go to a grief group and you have real support. You've created a whole life for you to be able to get through this really challenging time. Tell us a little bit how you do that.
I think when after Christopher died, I dove headfirst into grief, learning about grief, experiencing my grief, and not shoving it under the rug. I
Mm.
knew it was something that me personally, had to face head on if I was going to continue to live. And I have to. I have to continue to live.
Yeah, so tell us a bit how that is, what that looks like for you. You have a sign behind you, we can do hard things. This is
Yeah.
something that Glennon Doyle has coined. She has a podcast of the same name, and it is true, we can do a lot of hard things. What does that mean for you now?
Now it means for me, not just existing, but living life and
Mm.
finding joy and doing all the things that I deserve to do. Christopher's life is over, but my family's life isn't. And I kind of dove into journaling, reading, do a lot of yoga, meditation, and just knowing that I don't have to know how to do this forever. I don't have to know how next year is going to look or 5 years, but I do know what I can do today to get to tomorrow.
And when I'm watching your posts, Melissa, there is a lot of things that really resonate. Some days you just can't do the simple tasks because you are consumed by grief that takes up all of your day, basically. So when friends send you a message and you don't immediately answer, and you relativize all of those things, which I think is something that is so helpful to all of us out there, the people who go through something equally challenging, but also to the people who often don't know how to talk to people who are going through very challenging times, which is why you lead so powerfully by example with your story. What do you feel you want to tell other people of navigating this time? You know, those learnings that you have now after, I don't know, 6 months or however long it is now, that you can sort of pass on to other people, which might be sort of guidelines almost as to how to navigate this.
For the people grieving or supporters, which ones?
Well, maybe we talk to both
Okay.
because you talk to everyone. You talk to
Right.
me who hasn't now
Mhm.
personally lost a child but lost a father last year. And when I follow your story, you teaching me how I can speak to someone who is going through a child loss journey,
Mhm.
or someone who is, going through a child that is sick, or how I can refer to myself, who is grieving my father's death.
Right. I think for and everybody, and this is what I have learned when I went to my grief group, is truly everybody grieves in their own way.
Mm,
And I think as long as everyone respects that out of each other, and I have a very good friend who her son passed away 6 months before my son. And even, just between the two of us and how we're grieving and how we're coping, it's very different. But
mm,
one of the books I read, which I wish everybody would read, it's called Bearing the Unbearable, is having the courage to suffer. And I think, even though people don't want to be told that they're strong or they're brave or they're doing something that they could never survive, in a way, I know Christopher made me brave. I know Christopher made me resilient. And I know that he taught me all of those lessons when he was alive so that I could learn from those. And now I'm the one that I'm the one that has to be brave. And I'm the one that has to have the courage to show up every day, not only for my family, but for me.
Melissa, what do you feel are your deal breakers now? Where do you have a hard no?
I think for me, I used to feel guilty when it came to rest
Mm,
and saying no to people and saying no to, events or things I didn't really have the heart. And now my deal breakers are I I'm not going to do things for other people. I'm
mm.
not going to do things that only please somebody else. I'm going to do things that I know that I need and that I deserve. Especially being a caregiver for Christopher for 11 years,
Yeah.
uh, it was hard to do things just for me. It was
Mm.
hard to find that balance of, no, this is selfish. This is what I want to do just for me. And now I don't feel selfish. Now I know that I deserve to have those things too. I deserve to have joy just because I want to feel the joy.
Yeah. Beautiful, Melissa. So you posted things that are not necessarily your own words, but that sort of express how you felt. And one of them is grief is not the end of the story. It's the chapter that transforms you forever. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
I did Christopher's death, absolutely. I have written that, when he took his last breath, I took my first as a new person. I am no longer who I was. It's not good, bad, or otherwise. It's just that person who I was didn't leave the hospital. She stayed there with him. And then
Mm.
I need to figure out who I am. And now is kind of the time that I can be, because it doesn't matter anymore. You've already experienced the worst thing in life that you're going to experience. So it doesn't matter if I try and fail and I try to become or do or be somebody that I've always wanted to be, because nothing's going to hurt my feelings anymore.
Yeah.
I can be whoever I want to be now and not apologize for it.
And and I'm sure that's still a sort of a tender new skin that you're growing. But what do you feel like where, have you had real moments of inner joy where you thought, yeah, that's me. I'm walking in that right direction. I feel this pull.
I feel like I'm slowly finding her. I think I'm slowly in new experiences or just little things, and I'll go, for instance, this might seem very small and trivial, but clothing.
Mm.
I'm finding a different style or clothes that make me feel good or clothes that kind of spark joy and just make me smile. Where before, with clothes, it just had to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I was, up and down off the ground. And so even small things like that can give me a little piece of, oh, she's there. She's there. She's gonna show up. And I don't know who she'll be, but there's little small glimpses of who she is.
And something else you posted, micro joys are how we survive macro grief. That's exactly what you were sort of a little bit talking about just
Hmm.
now, right? The little things that all of a sudden you think, there is light there.
Hmm. Yes. And even with my other boys, I try to, obviously, they know I'm grieving still. They're still grieving. And I show up to them because they deserve me to show up for them. And we do find joy. Theodore and I dance in the living room, and it's genuine, and we're smiling and we're happy. But there's also that flip side where I'm still grieving. And I think so often people think, oh, they saw me smiling. Oh, they saw me happy. They're going to
Mm.
think I'm over it, which to be honest, there's no getting over any of this.
No.
It is just finding those small joys in life that can help you get to the next joy in life, and then the next one, and then the next one. And I think my grief for Christopher will always be part of my life.
Yeah, Melissa, and what you're showing is that we can hold a lot of truths at the same time, which I think is something else that we keep forgetting as humans. You can be crushed by grief, but you can also have some light come through and you can dance through the living room with one of your other boys
Mhm.
and you can show up for them, but you can also feel like today I just want to be under my duvet in my bed.
Yeah, I had one of those days where recently, and it's funny, not funny, but interesting that you think those days are what people do in the
Mm,
weeks after. Those
mm,
days are what happens in the first 2 weeks of the loss. You don't get out of bed, mope around the house, but I have those days still. I don't, there's days when I know, okay, I feel emotionally regulated today. I can do this. But then there's days where no, I can't. My husband gets home from work and I say, I'm really sad today and I'm
mm.
just going to go to bed. And that's okay.
Yeah. Melissa, so how do you show up for each other in your family?
Everybody has a very, very open communication. We know Christopher's death is not a secret. My boys were both there when he passed
Mm.
away. My family, my extended family is extremely, extremely close. So my siblings always check in. We go to dinner at my mom's at least once a week. Everybody's always very, very supportive. And my husband and I are grieving very differently, very
Mm.
differently. And we know that about each other. And there was one night he came home from work, and in those first 3 weeks after when he returned to work, he'd come home and I would just lay on the couch next to him and I would cry, and the tears would just keep falling. And I said to him, I hope you're not going to be mad at me that I'm going to cry like this probably forever. And he said, I hope you're not going to be mad at me that I'm not going to cry forever. And he said, I love Christopher. I think about him every day. I miss him so much, but that's just not what he does.
Mm.
And I said, okay, as long as we both respect that each other is grieving in their own way and we don't ever resent each other, or you're not doing it the right way because you're not doing it my way. I think as long as we have a very open communication and we know that, and that is hard as a mom to sit there and remember that everybody else is grieving Christopher.
Differently.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, I can really resonate with that. How do there must be days when you have really overwhelming feelings of either, feeling very sad or very angry.
Yes.
Why does this have to happen to you? How do you handle them?
I go to yoga.
Thank God for
I,
yoga and
yes,
meditation
yes,
and coffee and family and
yes,
girlfriends.
yes. We do a lot of walking. I do a lot of walking. I just added up all my miles since Christopher passed away, and I'm close to 500 miles. So
Wow.
a lot of walking, put my headphones on
Mm.
and listen to music and walk and talk to friends and go to yoga and meditate. And I started new routines for myself, and I
Mm.
was really keeping myself accountable for those routines. And really, I returned to yoga probably 3 to 4 weeks after Christopher died. And
Mm.
my yoga instructor would gently nudge me,
Mm.
gently, because she knew I needed to get back.
Yeah.
She knew that that was so important to my mental health and that I just needed that. And it was such a safe space for me that I would cry even during Shavasana, and I
Mm.
would cry. And my instructor, she'd sit right behind me and she would grab a tissue and she would wipe my tears, and nobody in the class judged me. And it was the silent support of a group of women, and nobody had been through what I was going through, but it's beautiful to be supported by other people.
So, is there any way that you found most helpful for people that showed up for you or keep showing up for you? Is there any way that you can say that really helped me?
It's hard. I think certain small things can bring a little sense of comfort. I think the most thing that's helpful to me is when people remember Christopher, is when people do things in his honor, when people have a memory pop up and they tell me about it, and they don't just hold it to themselves and go, oh, I don't want to make her upset, or I
Mm.
don't want to. If you're risk it, then risk it. That is what I would say is if you're worried somebody is going to be upset, I can assure you that anybody telling me a story about Christopher or how much of an impact he made on their life is not going to upset me. And
Mm.
even if I think people go, oh, but she looks like she's doing so well, I don't want to
Rock the
trigger
boat.
anything. Yes,
Mm.
yes. And
Yeah.
I think You're not going to rock the boat. Even my
No.
dad passed away 12 years ago. And I would love for people to bring up a story about him,
Yeah.
even if anything. And I don't know, I I can laugh about because Christopher could be very cheeky and he could be very naughty. And when his therapist would, text me, oh, I'll never forget the time Christopher did this. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's those small things. I'm not asking people to buy my dinner every day
Mhm.
or come and do extravagant things for me. It's those small reminders that as a parent, we never want our children to be forgotten. And if you can remind me that he's not,
This
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Take risk, people. Lean in. I always said, the nicest thing people can do with me actually when my dad died was cry with me.
Yes.
Remember him, have a little cry together. That made me feel really connected. And that
hmm
was really the nicest thing anyone could do for me in those days.
Yes.
Melissa,
And
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was going to say, even if it takes 5 text messages before we respond, just keep at it. Just keep
Yeah,
at it. Don't, because it can be, especially in the beginning, it's overwhelming. It's
yeah,
overwhelming, and you cannot respond to everybody, which is why I think I would love to make a postcard of sorts that funeral homes can hand out to supporters that
mm,
are lists of things that you can do to support somebody who's grieving, and then write dates on it that say, okay, a month after, I'm going to do this. 2 months after, I'm going to do this, and so on, so that the support can spread over time rather than
yeah.
in just those first 2 weeks of
Mm,
loss, because that can be very overwhelming.
yeah. So people keep at it,
Yes.
keep at it, keep sending the messages, keep doing the things, whether that's a weekly bunch of little flowers, messages about the person who's no longer with us. Melissa, what takeaways would you like people to have from your story? That is
I
ever
think,
evolving because you are
oh,
ever
all the
evolving.
time. Yes. I think don't demonize your grief.
Mm,
Don't think of your grief as something you have to hide or something to be ashamed of. And I read something that my love for Christopher was so loud that my grief is going to be loud too.
yeah.
And it's not anything to be ashamed of. And although grief is the uninvited guest,
Mm,
welcome her and welcome those feelings that come along with it. And you're going to have to get used to it, because the only way that you're going to keep living your life is grief is going to be next to you. And the longer you shove it aside or try to hide it under the rug, in my opinion, is not going to service you or your family in the long run. I would say, as much as it's horrible, is kind of to embrace your grief.
which you're doing, Melissa, and you're doing it also with so much beautiful role modeling by documenting all of that and relativizing it and making the personal also universal, which it is. There's many people and many mothers going through a similar journey, and it's holding the candle for all of them and making it a normal thing and giving it some guidelines, which I think we much need. So I'm so thankful for you to come on WeCan, to lead by example, to show up under our real life on Instagram. If anyone is listening who needs Melissa's role modeling now, there you are, our real life. And I'm
Oh, can
just,
I correct you? I'm sorry. It's our real rare life.
Our Real Rare Life. So
Yes, sorry.
Our Real Rare Life um, under Instagram. And Melissa, I'll keep watching you and I'll keep being part of your journey, watching from afar. And I'm sure, and many people across the world do that. And you bring so much healing and support for others, which I'm just so unbelievably grateful for.
Thank you so much for having me.